Hey everybody, it's Lebo with Lebo's Pinball. We are on part 6 of this Card Tricks Pinball game repaired. If you've been following along in the whole series, you've seen we've gone through a number of things with like fixing some issues with the Paul and Play, doing some weird things. Also fixed some issues with the whole little spinner unit thing that's kind of like a roulette wheel really in a way here in the middle. Had issues with the ball kicking out after the game was over, and even though they wouldn't score points or anything, it would still volley up a ball, and it was just kind of weird. And we've also done a number of other things, like we replaced all the plastic posts throughout the game, just kind of whiten it up, put new pop bumper caps on, new guides. Of course, we've replaced all the rubber bands with silicone bands, and we've put fresh LED warm lights all throughout the game. And so now we are kind of coming to the finish line. This may actually be the last video on the series of this whole game, and it's been a really good project. But what we're going to work on today is kind of the last little thing is we're going to go rebuild the flipper mechs. I already put in new flipper bats in the last video, which just involved basically unscrewing the bat from what's basically called the shoe and shaft that's underneath it, and I just put those on. But now what we're going to do is we're going to dig underneath the playfield and actually rebuild the whole mech. So let's just go ahead and get started on that, and I'll kind of walk you through it. So, one thing you maybe think is like, why are we replacing, anything to do with the flipper mechs? What's wrong with them? Well, the owner of this game had noticed whenever you hit the ball on the left side, it seems to work pretty decent, not too bad. But when you're dealing with the right side, it's just kind of weak. It's you hit it just right, and you can get a pretty good little hit with it. Um, but a lot of times it just feels just kind of lackluster. And so there's a few issues that can cause that. A lot of times, just doing an entire flipper rebuild will take care of just about everything that's on there. But it could also be the actual flipper switches that are on the side, because this game, that the switches actually carry the full load. But the prior owner, or the owner, not the prior owner, the owner of the game has already swapped those out, but the actual flipper mech still needs to be done. So we're going to take a look at that and see where there could be some issues, and what replacing the whole flipper rebuild kit, how that will actually address it. So let's look at this whole flipper mechanism. You've got the actual coil. There's a plunger. Here is a linkage. Here is, really, I guess you call this the bell crank or arm. Here is the flipper bushing. What you don't see back inside here is a coil stop. That's when the plunger actually goes forward. What does it hit? Here is your end of stroke switch, which is closed until the stroke goes all the way open, and goes all the way, in which it at that point will then open up the switch. And there's also a spring here, which will then pull things back. I think I basically covered everything. That's all. Of course, you got brackets and whatnot. So, what can contribute to a weak flipper? What are some of the things that can cause it? Well, first thing, let's go ahead and take a look at this. If I hold this, let's just hold this little arm steady, or no, I'll hold the plunger steady. So look at that. You see this, the relative movement from here all the way down to that plunger. That's actually robbing some of the power. So what's going on? What's worn out? So there is a little pin that connects this linkage to this plunger. There's a pin here that connects the linkage to the arm, and the hole that the pin goes through that's in this linkage. What usually happens is that hole, which is normally kind of a fairly tight clearance, it just it starts to elongate. Instead of it being a hole, it could be, I don't know, sort of egg shaped or whatever, but it's an elongated hole where you're getting, see, there's slop right there on that, and then we've also got the slop down here on that end. So that's one of the causes. You can also have, even if like the screws here were not exactly tight, of course, that'll happen is you'll start to see that the flipper starts to get in the wrong orientation over time. So that kind of is a little different sign. That may not be so much of just a cause of of the weak flipper, but you'll definitely see a flipper that's been walking around. These bushings, they can crack or just wear out over time. That can be a cause. This switch, if those contacts get dirty, or you just have compromised conductivity across the contacts, then that means that when they are closed, which should be delivering the full voltage to the coil, if there is some resistance across that's um, if it's much resistance really at all, if that starts to become a problem, then that can be another cause to where the coil is basically just not hitting as hard as it can be. Another thing is if there's looseness here, which this one is a little bit loose, um, that can also rob some of the power. The coils that are already on here were upgraded before. The owner of this already swapped out these A5141s with Pinball Resources, their orange dot coils, which are just a little more powerful. I don't know exactly how much more, but it's just a little bit more powerful. And then they also have their yellow dots, which is just another step above. Again, I don't have anything to quantify that to you. I think I've heard somewhere around maybe 10% more for the yellow, maybe 5% more for the orange. Don't quote me, don't challenge it, but it's something like that. You get the idea. That's what we've got going on here. The coil stop on the other end, that can start to mushroom out after so many hits. Now that's not really going to rob the power, but it will. It can do some other things. Well, I guess it maybe in a way could possibly rob some power if it starts flaring out inside to where it's sort of grabbing things. Kind of funny. I don't know. That one's a little bit of a stretch, but you'll get some weirdness with that. The sleeve, I guess I didn't really talk about that too. If the sleeve starts to um, bite down on this plunger, um, then that would certainly cause a problem. Now, for biting down the plunger, I guess some, if they've just worn over time, that could be part of the issue. If you've had an issue with a coil before where something was locked on, and say maybe locked on the actual power coil and not just the hold coil. These coils have actually got two separate windings. One that's for just when you've got the switch closed here and your start of stroke. Once you get all the way to the end of stroke, it transitions from full power, the full power coil to just the hold coil. And so let's just say that something happened where this switch wasn't opening, so, and you're holding a ball with your flipper, but that switch is never opening. You're holding it with the full power instead of just the hold power. That could cause the coil to start to heat up, and as it heats up, it could cause a couple problems. One, it could start to maybe warm up the sleeve inside. That starts to bite down on the plunger. Um, Also, could have an issue with the coil where it's heating up so much that the wire that's all through that will heat up, and the insulation on that will start to um, degrade or melt down, maybe, and then you get a short inside of it. And when you short it, then things really start to go bad. I mean, now you've effectively got fewer winds that could cause the another problem with the coil. So in some cases, it might even cause the coil to even hit even harder. But it gets hotter and hotter, and then that's just going to bite down, and that's going to be even more of an issue. So lots of different things that could all be a problem. So what we're going to do today, we're going to rebuild all of this. So we're going to put in the new plunger linkage. The arm, I think the kit came. I can't recall if it came with a new arm or not. We may be pressing out that pin. That's okay. We don't. That'll be all right. It will definitely be putting in new bushings. I think it comes with a new spring. We'll go ahead and swap out these springs. Although I think these look pretty new. But since we have it and we want to just roll things out, I want to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and swap out these orange dots with the yellow dots, even though these coils are probably fine. I've not run a meter on them or anything to go see if there's any indication of anything weird with them. I don't know what resistance that I should read on them, but I don't have any kind of a hunch that those coils really are bad. Um, but I'd like to just go ahead and upgrade them up to just the yellow dot and try that out and see how that works in this game. See if we're happy with it. If we don't like it, we can always go back to these orange dots, but because I think they're okay. So, all right, so that's a plan. I've been yapping a lot. Let's go ahead and start taking this apart, and then I will show you how we get it all put back together. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take off this black wire, which supplies a constant 25 volts to this coil. I'm going to heat that back up here in just a second. I've just thrown a little solder on. Sometimes it's easier to unsolder them if you go ahead and flow in a little fresh solder. Let's see if I can do this without burning my fingers. Here we go. All right, I can pull that one to the side. And it's a little crazy here. I hadn't soldered to take it off. I don't know that I have to do it. Sometimes it's helpful. I can do this again without burning myself. It's always manage to not burn yourself. There we go. Okay, I'm going to leave these other two wires attached, and the reason for that is I'm going to end up taking this coil and this switch totally out. Notice that this is loose because I already started getting ahead of myself and I started loosening some screws here. But I'm going to take this all out as an assembly and over on the workbench, and then I will basically just kind of rebuild that little sub-assembly with a new switch to the coil, and I will bring it back. But next what we're going to do is go ahead and take just take the screws off that are holding that coil in place. Grab my screwdriver and so we can not drop everything. These can be a little bit of a handful to work on because you got loose parts. A lot of times I will, oh, interesting. A broken coil stop here. Yeah, I'll end up working on these on my rotisserie, and it's just a little easier to get hold of everything. But let's go ahead and move this here to the side. Let that coil dangle. And we'll go ahead and take out the other bracket down here. And we'll move over to the workbench or go rebuild, or put together the new coil with a new switch and get some things ready there. Also, we'll take a look at this this coil stop that broke off and see what we need to do about that. And before we get over the workbench, let's just go ahead and finish taking some other things out here. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen up the arm here. Well, that's good. That should just slip off. Only thing we got is we got the one little spring here. We'll let that relax. Okay, so let's pull this off. Now we will go ahead and take out this bushing. And notice that this spring is hooked onto that one. We'll note that that's the same one we will use because I'm assuming that that's the right one. The last time this was rebuilt, I'm assuming it has been rebuilt one or multiple times over the course of its life, but honestly I do not know, and it could be that it has never been rebuilt, of which it has held up pretty well for a game that was made in 1970. Chances are it did have a rebuild, a full rebuild at some point. It's definitely a good one today. All right, so, and there you go, the shaft is just hanging out in there. That's the shaft that's for the flipper. So we'll set him to the side also for right now. Okay, and then of course we've got to take out this whole bracket that's got the switch. We'll just go ahead and get these two screws out, and of course try not to drop them, which I did. And I found it. Hey, all right, this will be our last screw, and then we can take things over to the workbench and take a look at things over there. All right, here we go. So with the coil and the switcher and the workbench, let's just go ahead and build a new one. I'm just going to leave this one alone because I've got some new wires here. I got my new switch. All I got to do is just, doesn't matter. This is just a switch. So you can just connect either one of these to either one of these. It doesn't matter which side. So I'm going to go ahead and wire that up. One thing I will note is that the kit comes with, you got two switches. There's a left and a right, just based on the way that the bracket's mounted on here. So look at the one that you took off and match it to make sure you're putting the right one back on. We'll go ahead and throw these wires on. So here we've got the new coil. We've got the yellow dot. This is the one that I was mentioning earlier that's a little bit stronger than the orange dot. It's just a smidge. How much is a smidge? Somebody's going to ask. I know. Just a little bit more than a tad, or actually a little bit less. All right, let's move on. So we also noticed that this is a coil stop here, and that's what it looks like on the end. It's basically, it sits right in here, either on this side or the other side, depending on how you've got the coil oriented into the game. But the idea is that when you have the plunger that goes firing through the coil, that's what it's actually hitting. So what I was noticing when I was taking this apart, this just fell out. So, whoa, hello. So what's broken on this thing? So normally, see if I can zoom in enough. It's attached that way, and there's actually a nut on the back side, and that is just either has been sheared off, or maybe after all the impacts and the stress that's in there, that just broke. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I think on the other coil, I think it's broken on that one too, because I was noticing some movement on that other end. So here we go. Here's the new one. I'll show you what this is, how this is made. Just kind of get a close look at it, and you can see how it's put together. So we've got this little stud that goes through. You've got this little plastic piece that will help center things. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to put that on here. Put this little nylock locking nut on the back side here. Let's go ahead and start to snug it up. And I need to grab a pair of pliers and a wrench just to go ahead and tighten this up. And once I've got this together, then we can start going back, starting to put things back together. So while we're over here on the workbench working on getting things ready, here's another thing I want to go ahead and take care of. So this was the arm, the linkage, the plunger, and what this particular kit comes with is a new linkage and a plunger, but it doesn't come with a new arm. So we got to transfer the old arm to the new arm. So what we're going to do is I just got my vise set up here, just as kind of a convenient place to set it while we drive out this pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try not to drive the pin totally out, but get it out enough, just a little bit more, enough to where we can slip that linkage out. Let's tighten this up a little. See where we're at. Almost. Let's tap it just a little bit more. Well, the reason why I don't want to go the whole way is that I don't want to have to. Oh, there we go. I was trying to. Yeah, there we go. See how I've got that's already started on that side. That way it's not all the way out. Just make life a little bit easier. So we'll take this one out, and I guess I'll go ahead and show this again. Look at the new one compared to the old one. How much movement do we have on the old one? See, back and forth. And this one is very little. So we'll go ahead and slip this in and drive that pin back down. And here's everything put back together. Just the way I did it is I didn't actually film it, but I just sat here and I just hammered it back down. You could actually take this vise, open it up, put something like a socket or something in, and then just kind of press it in place. But I just set it here and hammered it in place, and it went fine. All right, so let's go ahead and start putting things back together on the game. So all right, so I jumped ahead just a little bit, unfortunately, because my battery died on my camera or my phone, which is what I'm recording all this on. But just to let you know what I've done, so I've put this bushing back in. This is the new one. And notice that I've put the spring in place, and I hooked it onto this last screw. Went ahead and then slipped the arm, the bell crank onto the shaft of the flipper. And the one thing just to know that I'm not going to flip the camera around right now, but you have to kind of orient the flipper and where its resting position. So basically, with this all the way up like that, just resting there, that's where I will then I will rotate the flipper just approximately where its normal resting position would be. We'll look at the playfield later, so I can show you kind of what to look for. Sometimes there are some games that will have a locating pin that will show you what to line things up. This game doesn't have that, but what this is one of those things you can kind of adjust and get how you like it. Although we'll look at it here in a second. Anyways, just kind of keep moving forward. So now it's time to go ahead and put the coil in place along with the switch. So this is what we did over on the workbench, and there is that coil stop. So let's get this bracket. We'll go ahead and get things kind of put together here. Whoops, forgot. I'm going to put this on here first. And just kind of get this roughly in place. Get a couple screws and mount that up. All right, so I got the wires soldered back to the coil here. Get the coil all mounted up. Notice that this is all solid now. None of the wobbling that it had before. Let's see, what else did I already do? I got the switch mounted. Everything's put back together. The only thing that I need to now adjust, and I've since these screws were just a little bit tightened up, not really much, it allows me to kind of position this how it needs to be. And I'm going to start out here. I've just got this lining up actually with the artwork. There's not really, an indicator. Sometimes there would be a way where you can indicate that where it needs to be. And really, ideally, you want this so that you can cradle the ball and be able to make some of the shots. Like if you're needing to shoot over here to the side, you want to make it where you can. At least that's what I think. I mean, everybody's kind of got a little bit of their opinion on this, but since this doesn't really have a pin that I can see that I'm orienting it to, what I'm actually using is just kind of looking at that artwork there and let that be kind of my point of reference. Sometimes you can kind of follow like this line here and it's actually kind of going a little bit downhill. But we're starting in here with the artwork because I don't really have that same thing over here except for the artwork. And the other thing to kind of watch for is, have a little tiny bit of up and down slop. Sometimes you can put like this little, like a shim or something just to kind of hold it in place. And then you could take a piece of tape or whatever and just kind of hold it over. But I've already kind of got that just roughly how I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up. And then we're going to basically rinse and repeat, do the other side and test it out. So let's get going with that and see how it all plays when we get done. All right, so we got the left flipper all rebuilt off camera. And now both of them are all clocked in the nice position that they need to be in. And I think everything is going to be ready to go. Let's go ahead and give this game a try. All right, here we go. Okay, well, nice, there we go. All right, let's see how these flippers feel. Nice. That was the right flipper, the one that was giving us the problem before, and that shot it right up there. Yeah. So both of them, I can already tell, are given a little stronger hit. They're hitting just a tad stronger than before, but especially the right one is just it's hitting it the way that it was supposed to hit. So, yeah, this is good. All right, look at that. I'm gonna go ahead and drain it because, folks, that's just enough of a test to just show you how this thing is playing, and I think the owner's gonna be really happy with this game. We've gone through, fixing a bunch of stuff, and it just plays nice and smooth now, and it's just ready to go back home and be enjoyed for many, many, many more years. So If you've been watching along, thanks for watching all the the whole episodes through all this, and we will see you guys again on our next project.